Hello, good afternoon. Hi, you must be Sherlock. I'm your new flatmate. Luke Edwards. Yes, I know. Oh, yes, in these mere seconds in which I've met you, I have deduced that your Anglican genetics and the blatant Essex gabble prove that your parents are from East London, and thereby lacked the originality when naming you. I figured that out of all the biblical names, the least Middle Eastern one would suit your whiter-than-rice heritage. Why not guess Mark, then? Or Matthew? You don't look like a Mark. I'm pretty sure you already know my name because we've emailed each other. Aha, you are sly, but I see through you. I can deduce by the Doctor Who DVDs on your shelf, the massive collection of them in fact, that you did not lose your virginity until you were in your 20s. Wow, untrue and rude. And with further deductive reasoning, I can tell that your first sexual encounter was, in fact, awkward. Well, yeah, that's kind of obvious. Obvious, you say? Alas, I can deduce that your neckbeard is becoming increasingly dishevelled, and your beer belly increasingly large. Yeah, well, we are in lockdown. And once acknowledging the pallid tone of your skin, one can put two and two together and acknowledge that you have been stuck in this flat for a very long time. And the tired bags under your eyes infer an overdose in screen time, which I can only assume is because you watch and make YouTube videos to seek the validation of strangers, to scratch an itch that is a lack of human communication. Why are you doing this? To prove how smart I am, it's why I do everything. Right, well, do you want to move in or not? Ah, but I deduce that you have a slight disliking for me now, and are only offering me the position as a flatmate, simply because of a prior arrangement you had made before, but are now experiencing doubts. What gave that away? Oh, but I am a master of deduction, Watson. I'm Edwards. Whatever. Well, if you want the room, then it's yours. I do in fact deduce that I would, yes. Right, well, put your number in there then, in case there's a problem in the future. Ah, but by the quality of your phone, I deduce that your father is an alcoholic. What? It is quite obvious using the powers of deductive reasoning to see that a phone, as nice and modern as this... It's a 4-year-old phone. It could not belong to someone as uneducated and common as yourself. I'm studying a bachelor's in creative writing. Exactly, which means it must be a loan from your father, who is a cockney and inevitably a taxi driver, meaning he uses this modern phone as a sat-nav and to watch porn in between jobs. Right. And if you are wondering how I deduced that your father is an alcoholic, wrong. I can tell by the scratches around the charging port that he in fact has a drinking problem. Yeah, that's wrong. It's incorrect. You never see a sober man's phone with them, or a drunk man's phone without them. Well, for starters, it's my phone, not my dad's, although he is a cockney taxi driver. But you couldn't have got it more wrong if you tried. No, seriously, he actually is a cockney taxi driver. But you are horrendously wrong about that, Sherlock. But I did correctly deduce your alcoholism, did I not? No, mate. But the scratches. Everyone's phones have them scratches. It's a small hole. Never mind, I am still the greatest detective alive. Okay, well done you. Will you take the room or not? Yes, I think I will, Watson. Edwards. My name is Edwards. Oh, I don't really give a shit. I just want to acknowledge I don't normally wear t-shirts like this. I don't want to be a billboard. But my mummy bought me it for Christmas. And it's comfy and it has a dinosaur on it. You can suffer my veganism for one video, can't you? So today we're going to be talking about Sherlock Holmes. Because these books are awesome. I say books, but they're actually short stories. Because there are 4 novels and collections of short stories. And the short stories, some of them are only about 30 pages or less, were published weekly in newspapers, I believe. And then they were grouped together. And they're great. And what I really want to acknowledge is how ahead of their time these stories are. The first one was in 1887. 1887. Because they read so modern. They read so modern. I mean, I've tried to read things like Les Miserables. I've read a bit of Dickens, but it's heavy, you know? A lot of this old stuff, a lot of the classic stuff is heavy. And it's hard to read. Even Lord of the Rings is kind of hard to read unless you really get yourself in that mind space. But these short stories are a blast. And what is so great about them is the fact that you could just read these alongside whatever you're reading now. You could be reading a novel and just once a week, sit down, nice cup of coffee, read one Sherlock Holmes story in one sitting. Why not? They're awesome. One of my favourite stories is The Adventure of the Speckled Band. And the stories just vary so much into different types of mysteries, whether it be petty crime, robbery, murder, occultism, political crimes, war-related stuff, fraud. There are so many different mysteries and they all have something new to offer. It was so ahead of his time because they were published weekly and there was like hype for them. There was fan culture before fan culture was a thing. And basically no detective stories would really exist without the influence of Sherlock Holmes. And I think that's evident that Conan Doyle set the bar and sent the crime genre spiraling to the level that it is. And all of it is under his shadow and Agatha Christie's shadow. I haven't really read any Agatha Christie, but I've read loads of the Sherlock Holmes stories and they're just really good. For those of you that have been living under a rock and don't know, Sherlock Holmes is a detective character created by Scottish author Arthur Conan Doyle. And what's really great about the writing is not only is it really easily readable, really accessible, anyone can enjoy these stories, but you also get to see it through the eyes of Watson, his sidekick, who is a normal person. It was such a smart decision. You see these sort of narrative techniques, ways of utilising characterisation in stories now, in the modern times, all the time. Back then, this was a new thing, and it was very deliberate. He wanted to display the amazingness of Sherlock's intellect and the awe of his discoveries. So Conan Doyle decided to show us the narrative through the eyes of Watson. Agatha Christie does this with Poirot as well, and she is blatantly drawing influence from Sherlock. The rest of the genre draws influence from her. He is the Tolkien of detective stories. And I find it strange because Conan Doyle's writing is easier to read than Agatha Christie. 100%, without a doubt. It's so easy to read. It is such a cosy and enjoyable read that you have no excuse. Sit down on your bloody sofa, have a hot coffee, and read one of his stories now. I need to calm down. Also, if you want to listen to the audiobooks, Stephen Fry has narrated all of the Sherlock Holmes stories on Audible. So if that doesn't convince you, I don't know what will. Also, I don't know if every edition is like this, but some of them have illustrations in, which is really strange. I don't know if the illustrations were originally in the stories in the 1800s, but they're in this copy. So, I mean, either way, there's a lot of revolutionary stuff going on. My only criticisms are that there are many story beats that we would want, and the stories don't get into that. The short stories are very procedural, and he summarises sometimes, and he does tell sometimes rather than show. We don't get character moments and relationship development like we do in the show and in the films, because the stories are all about the plot and the mystery for the most part, and we are learning about the plot and the mystery through Sherlock and Watson. So we don't get that sort of characterisation. BBC's Sherlock delves more into their relationship and Sherlock's sociopathic tendencies, but the books don't really do that. And we also don't get the Moriarty-Sherlock relationship dynamic in the stories that you get within the other mediums. And there's also loads of non-canon Sherlock, because Sherlock Holmes is a public domain character, so there probably are Sherlock Holmes novels that delve into the characterisation of the character. I don't know where the fan base sits with how accepting they are of non-canonical Sherlock Holmes. I haven't read any of it, so I couldn't tell you. But it's public domain, so there's loads of works out there other than the non-canonical work. I think there's Young Sherlock and various other types of Sherlock Holmes works. But the original stories are a classic, and I think everyone should at least give them a go. If you don't like them, you don't like them. I'm not a big crime reader, though. Like I said, I didn't really vibe well with Agatha Christie. I haven't read enough of it, but I don't really read crime. I'm a fantasy reader because I like wonder. I like to be in awe. But you do get that with these stories because you are in awe of Sherlock's intellectual capabilities. But I would recommend his books to anyone that wants a nice, cosy mystery adventure. Any of you budding sleuths out there, there's a lot to love in these stories, and they are classics for a reason. Thank you for watching this video. Please like and comment because that really helps me out with the algorithm. Share my content if you like what I do here. Please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when I've uploaded. Follow me on Instagram because I post stories most days, and I've got a Discord and we have great chats in the Discord about all sorts of things. I want to build a community. But yes, definitely read Sherlock Holmes. Good day.